answer for a giant early on in the game. They can stall it out with a Doomsayer for a little while, but the deck is not playing Polymorph, so they'd be looking for like random generation, for example, to try and find them an answer.
No voodoo dolls either in the deck or anything for the spot removal?
Nope.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do, so I'm just going to keep saying that because it's true. We are going to go into game number 1, though. As we said, it is the Quest Mage versus the Even Lock, and something I want to, maybe not for this game, because we'll be looking at how this Mage is played, but in general, I want to keep an eye on how the teams act on camera, and because they are facing each other for a start, and also Team Norway, more than any other team I've heard, have talked a lot about, oh yeah, they're just giving away information by how they're reacting. They're either look excited or look miserable, or look deep in thought about a turn, which you can make some level of read of what their hand consists of. If you take a lot of time over any singular turn, it generally means there are more options to consider. Sal's confused face. I'm going to also cast Sal's reactions.
Yeah, straight away, I'm just like trying to figure out how many options you have here, like whether there was ever any merit to like start playing tempo before you played your quest on turn 1, because you do have like a Firefly curve that you can go with. But they were rewarded on the turn 1 quest by picking up Primordial Glyph on turn 2, which now gives them a nice cheap option on the follow-up. And Explosive Runes is a good option that they can use to at least start to contest a big minion that comes down on turn 4. Makes it or turn 3 even, sorry, in case of Even Lock. Makes it a lot more easy to then deal with after the fact.
Yeah, and look at this tempo as well. Now it can be Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Firefly, and the Explosive Rune all in one turn.
But that's your Apprentice, Raven. You need these things.
Tempo, kill them.
I just don't know.
I'm just saying, the way I'm going to choose to talk about this matchup is just say what the best singular play on average every single turn is.
That would be a dramatic improvement from your usual.
Hey!
Yeah, that was too easy. I had to. It's early, guys, but we're starting out hot.
You're 6, so I'll let you off this once, Sol. That's you 1, though. That's it for the whole day. You've used it.
Damn.
Yeah, there you go.
I know that was the rules. I would have thought of a better one.
Oh, I love making up rules on the spot. It's great.
So if they develop 1 damage here at least and then play the Explosive Runes, they then have the ability to take care of a giant on the following turn, right? Just by trading in the small minion and then pinging it off. They can also choose to go with just both tokens and then trade them both in and not have to restrict themselves to pinging on the following turn, which I kind of like more because with the double AI hand, you really want to be casting one of those AIs on the following turn.
Yep, I like this overall. And now we have to consider that there are multiple secrets that make this unfun. There's the rune, and then there's also mirror entity.
Yep.
Just is awkward because then the mage or Team China will be able to attack with their giant anyway. So then you get the odd, the weird like Warlock versus Warlock matchups we discussed yesterday, where whoever has initiative with their attacking giant is way further ahead than the other team.
Yeah, slightly different here because the mage doesn't really have like the package to back that up, right? Be it Faceless Manipulator or Cube or just another big minion to slam alongside it. If it was Mirror Entity, the 8/8s would just end up trading with each other.
Right, but it's still similar to the runes, acts like removal, right? Yes. Which is the key part. You do see it's the runes. I don't think there was a big enough reason to not play the giant. If you play anything else, you continually delay the giant anyway.
Right. There is that AI that they gave themselves the freedom to play by setting up this exact interaction. 6 damage from the runes, front load 2 on the board with the Firefly. That was a very deliberate sequence from China, and you can see by how quickly they followed it up, right? There was no need for any great discussion from the team because, oh, okay, Norway did the thing we expected them to do. We will continue with our game plan.
Yeah, there were no curveballs this early in the game, at least. But now Norway have to go back to saying, okay, what's the next turn? And double 2-drop seems reasonable to me. Does put that Spellstone as well.
A yawn from Hunter Ace there. It was a late finish last night, has to be said, and Hunter Ace and Norway
for one of us
were involved all the way. All right. Have I mentioned that I'm sick? I don't like to bring it up, you know, but if you'd like to send some sympathy my way, greatly appreciated.
Because you have none to send to anyone else, Sol.
No.
Shimmering Tempest is going to be able to add a random spell, which is the quest condition. You need to be able to cast spells that are not from your deck, or cards that are not from your deck.
No, it's spells.
Oh yeah, I keep thinking of Leyline as the general quest, which, yeah, it's fine. It's early and Sol's sick.
All right, well, Flame Strike coming off the one of the first random rolls for China is going to be that extra piece of removal because, again, I was trying to break down like all the various ways this matchup could play out, and you looked at it like potentially in terms of Big Spell Mage versus Evenlock, where for a portion of time, there was a belief that the amount of removal in Big Spell Mage just lined up against enough of the threats in Evenlock that you could just run them out of stuff and leave them pretty helpless. But there really isn't, as discussed, those voodoo dolls, those polymorphs, those key interactions to be able to get that done. So you are looking for a lot of help off your random generation, and Flame Strike is definitely way up there in terms of things that can end up being helpful.
Yeah, and this turn is very interesting to me as well, because the Artificers are just played onto the board and gaining 2, maybe 3, 4 armor based on what this glyph is.
Yeah.
And that's like a very low impact one. You know, you normally actually want, you know, Flame Strike or, you know, the big AoE spells to get like 14 armor in a turn if you're going to play both of them.
1 out of 6 right now. Simulacrum in hand, which of course does pair nicely with that Sorcerer's Apprentice in the old school version of this deck, Quest Mage Classic. Spellbender, not really going to have a huge impact. It's not like, you know, Spellstone will get hit by it if they target a minion, which of course they will, but it's not like China really have key minions that need protecting with a Spellbender outside of, let's say, Archmage Antonidas himself.
Yeah. Maybe it won't happen now, but in some situations it could protect an Artificer to maybe get 1 extra turn to gain armor. But even then, it's often not the biggest deal when you're dealing with cards like Infernal, Giants, for example, when maybe a tad extra armor doesn't make too much of an impact in the game's outcome. And now is this enough? This is the old Freeze Mage question of when is the damage enough to warrant a Nova, especially when you don't have a Doomsayer to pair with it? Because they have to expect Doomsayers are going to be either be silenced a lot of the time or spellstoned at some points. Maybe that's the play. Nova Doomsayer, and then you have the Spellbender to actually block the Spellstone.
Flame Strike, a little unusual there coming out. Didn't really deal with the majority of the threat on the board, which was the 4-6 and the 6-6 as it started. There's still just another 10 damage chunking in here from Norway. But I think what that Flame Strike was about, less than removal, was just, hey, this was actually a randomly generated card in our hand. We want to cast this at some point, so let's just get that 7 mana spent while we can, where we still have time in the game.
Also, as well, it probably signals potentially, because is there Blizzard in this? I have to keep asking because I just don't know what's in this deck. There's no Blizzard, right? Because if it was a general sort of control mage style, you could threaten Blizzard by doing a play like this.
Right.
But it just isn't there. The tools are actually kind of nuts. Now Shroomburrow is going to be able to heal up this Infernal. It's not like Team Norway are bothered about their own health total in any real form right now.
Yep.
You see this, they're just putting as many minions onto the board to put as much pressure on as possible, and this might just have to be a Frost Nova this turn.
That Firefly pickup now, of course, the upgrade effect, or sorry, the upgrade condition on Mage Spellstone, some of you might not know because it doesn't really get played. It's playing elementals that you need to upgrade the Spellstone. So that's the reason for these Fireflies being in the deck, because as mentioned, the quest comes down to spells that did not start in your hand. So the token doesn't count, it just helps you to upgrade that Spellstone and get pretty crazy outcomes. Simulacrum and Primordial Glyph have both been picked up here off random effects, and they're really, really strong, useful cards for the endgame game plan of China.
Yeah, as you can see, Simulacrum there, creating a duplicate of the Sorcerer's Apprentice in hand. Once you play those and you have cards like Primordial Glyph, you can just complete the quest in 1 turn.
Yep.
Like normally pretty easily. It's Molten Reflection as well. So China are piecing together a way to win, but how much stall do they even have left now? Because right now it is 0.
1 Frost Nova down, only 1 remaining in the deck. Just to, again, add a little bit more context to this deck. Some of the other cards we haven't really talked about yet. The Draw Engine, Stargazer Luna and Alineth are both featured in this deck. That's why you see NTR holding on to this Ooze for so long on the left-hand side. Even though he's been trying to aggressively develop minions and put on pressure, that Ooze is way too important to be able to stop China from drawing through, because essentially, remember, they have 1 card in their deck in Archmage Antonidas, which they have to draw. If they don't, their deck does nothing.
Yeah. Again, I just don't know. So is my answer. The double Sorcerer's Apprentice is going to come down, though, and that Glyph's going to get cooking. Ooh. I wanted the Book of Wonders. Oh,
China are just going now. They have no way to stop this pressure, so they're just having to dig as hard as they can in the deck, looking for that Antonidas, as I mentioned exactly. Didn't find it. Now the quest completion does go off, cheap enough to play here as well.
They might just commit, take their extra turn and say, okay. Heart of the cards moment right now if they commit to this turn. And there is a lot of discussion there, but they are just going to time warp and say, right, let's just go. Bear in mind what you need to remember with the additional turn is the minions can attack, which is the important part.
Yeah, and actually, going back a turn, as I was just kind of breaking down and adding context, Norway actually made a very, very smart play. You started talking about these Sun Fury protectors just, you know, being 2/3s being developed on the board. Those taunts that they've been making on the last couple of turns are very deliberate to stop this exact situation being so catastrophic for them. Because you can see without that 8/8 taunt in the way, these 3 apprentices are pushing 9, that's 10, 11, 12, and then there's just fireballs and frostbolts in hand that can push through and potentially win the game without even Antonidas.
And that's Nova again from the random spell generation, so there is some level of stall, and yeah.
It doesn't matter though, if they Hellfire this board now, Norway, then the game is just over, surely, as long as they have enough health to survive the Fireball Frostbolt in hand.
They've got a Hooked Reaver, a Fireball, and a Frostbolt. Maybe they can do this. Can they Frostbolt themselves to get a Hooked Reaver 7/7?
Do you have to ping or, yeah, Shooting Star your own minions to dig this 1 extra card, look for Arcane Intellect of the random generation? Or Project again to draw 2 more?
Oh. Okay, that's a good one. Insta-kill the minion, and that's the 8/8 taunt, so at least this is levels of damage that China can push through right now.
And then, the Hooked Reaver as well with this Molten Reflection now can actually put a huge amount of damage into play. That's an incredible catch at the last second from China.
What is this game?
Not Frostbolt to push damage, Frostbolt themselves in the face to get themselves down below 15 and generate 2 7/7s in play. That's so smart because it shuts down the exact situation that I was talking about, where it doesn't matter if China could survive with the Frost Nova. If this board got hellfired and they lost their apprentices, the game was over. But now China have found an alternate win condition with just 2 Hooked Reavers in play.
Juggling multiple random effects.
I wasn't expecting to talk that much all day.
I called the Frostbolt to face, come on.
Yeah.
That happened. But yeah, the Molten Reflection as well is absolutely huge, and I kind of just want to see what happens, to be completely honest. This is nuts, and there is still, they're going to get at least 1 more turn to see what they can push here. There's 7 damage from the 1 surviving Hooked Reaver for China, and there's Aluneth. So now there can be Fireball trade Aluneth? Because I don't think you can rely on a Tar Creeper instead because of silences.
Oh, Raven, the Spellbender's still in play as well. It just didn't proc because the board was full on the previous turn.
I wonder if they even consider that.
China could have potentially played around that as well, right? They had a...
Traded off a minion.
Like 1/2s. They had the Flame Elemental.
Yeah.
Damn. That was... You saw at the end of China's turn how much of a huge scramble that was, though, to get something done. And I have to say, they did very well to make a win condition. But you can see it wasn't perfect because the threat of that Spellbender neutralized by the fact that the what's the token called? You know these things. What's the thing that's appeared called?
The Flame Elemental?
No, the thing that comes when you Spellbender.
Spellbender room.
Okay, well, yeah, the 1/3 did not have room to appear on the board because of the full board.
It's a pretty niche question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I failed, but it's pretty niche. Okay, they are going for Tar Creeper, holding the Fireball and just piling on the pressure.
Sorry, I just realized there was a whole other level to that as well, because Norway's sequencing, they used the Spellstone first before they cast the Hellfire, because if they ruled out all of the other secrets, they knew it was Spellbender, so they actually recognized that situation and executed the sequencing in the right order.
It's a pretty good game of Hearthstone.
This is a great game. I'm enjoying this.
Wait.
Oh, it's just called Spellbender. The more you know.
I was close. Wait, did they didn't know it was Spellbender, right?
Did they not?
Well, they just missed lethal, didn't they? Double Spellbreaker?
Oh, yeah.
Hit him for 11?
Good point.
had to sit for a minute and double count 11 there because I was like, this works, right? So what? I wonder what they didn't test for.
Pretty sure they tested barrier. They've been hitting face all game. They tested playing minions, obviously. So, you know, Frozen Clone, Mirror Entity, and Explosive Runes is out.
Oh, what about they didn't hit face, did they? So Vaporize.
I feel like there's been a lot of face hitting.
Oh, maybe. There was a Frostbolt to their own face, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in the meantime, China are going digging now with the Stargazer Luna. Pick up a Frostbolt to go alongside that Fireball.
That's 12 damage available right now. They're going to keep drawing.
Behold the tools of creation.
You play it anyway, right?
Yeah, you just got to keep going. You need answers.
The tools of creation.
There's the Frost Nova.
Okay. The game is still on.
Oh my.
Behold the tools of creation.
And now again, double Spellbreaker is available. Like they could Spellbreaker one of their own minions and Spellbreaker the Tar Creeper to push damage, but it's nowhere near enough.
6, yeah. Obviously, if you Spellbreaker the Hooked Reaver, it does actually go down to 4, which means that it's actually less impactful. I wonder. And they've used both Spellstones, right?
Yep.
They don't have Gul'dan to get some health, and they at this point, they should know what's left in the hand because there are no randomly generated cards left if they've been tracking that well. So they know Antonidas 100% because that's just a card you're not going to forget.
Yep.
Doomsday is pretty reasonable.
The Fireball's random.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because the Flame Geyser's natural, right?
I would presume so,
I'm pretty sure it's
there
natural.
are 2 copies of Flame Geyser in the deck, so let's just assume so.
Wow. And look at this, the indecision and the questions that I imagine Team Norway asking each other now are similar to what we've just done. What's left in the hand?
Yeah.
What do we die to? What do we need to silence? Do we actually want the Doomsayer to go off so that they can't push damage with their minions?
Whoa, 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 whoa. You don't have time.
This is
you
late.
don't have time, guys. If you wanted to... Hunter Ace looks upset with this outcome. NTR looked like he leant forward and tried to take action with the Spellbreaker, but they just didn't have time to do it. And now with Antonidas and the discounted spells, cheap Fireball on the following turn, this Flame Geyser pushes too. Even a Blood Reaver Gul'dan only brings him up to 14 now.
Yeah. And even the extra 1-2 on board, pushing a little bit of extra damage. You know, you can't argue that, and they are already
They've got
roping.
the disconnect rope now because they took no action on the previous turn whatsoever. That's something that I've never seen factor into a competitive Hearthstone game.
Hooked Reaver as a taunt is the best outcome?
Yeah, I mean, Norway...
They can't heal for enough damage that Antonidas does, so they have to taunt.
Yeah, Norway are dead here. They just don't know it because that Fireball on the left-hand side of China's hand is randomly generated. So they're trying to get out of range of the one Fireball that they know their opponent has, which, with this hand, they can theoretically do.
Yeah. I don't understand this game of Hearthstone, Sol, but it does excite me.
Oh, it's been great, though.
Almost out of time.
Nope. Norway's #1 enemy right now. They are going to Homunculus and play a heal. Okay, so they heal for 2. Going up to 9, sorry. I can't count. 11. I'm counting the 5 damage, but it doesn't matter. Because regardless of the minions, regardless of everything else, China takes a win with one of the most unconventional mage decks I have ever seen.
The round of applause, I think,
taking down Norway.
Somewhat in sarcasm coming out from, I believe, Zorkthar there from Team Norway. They said coming into this, they had no idea what was going to happen going up against this quest mage. They were just going to have to rely on their instincts as Hearthstone players. I think they did that excellently. There is that moment with the Spellbender in play being the potentially confirmed secret.